Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In college football news today, another quarterback has declared for the NFL draft. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers made it official. He ends his college career going 21-5 as a starter in the last two seasons. The Tennessee Vols are finalizing a deal for Tim Banks to remain the defensive coordinator. According to Chris Lowe of ESPN, Banks led a unit that ranked top 10 in the country in total defense and scoring defense. Meanwhile, the Titans GM search continues. 6 candidates have been called back for second interviews. They are Mike Borgonzi of the Chiefs, John Eric Sullivan of the Packers, John Spytek of the Bucks, Terrence Gray of the Bills, Ed Dodds of the Colts, and Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. Tonight, the 6th-ranked Tennessee Vols are back home. They host number 15 Georgia for a 7 p.m. tip-off. Vol Network coverage on The Zone begins at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737 if you want to get in. But we got a loaded show today. We got Ross Chastain, NASCAR driver, coming in at the next segment, talk about his victory a couple of years ago, but also talk about, Nashville Super Speedway and all that kind of stuff. And then we also have Jordan DeJean. We're going to go around the NFL with him, get the latest on the GM coaching searches, NFL searches, MVPs, divisional round matchups, all that good stuff. But I want to start the show because I didn't get to it yesterday. But I want to start the show, Blaine. We, as a Titans nation, this Dallas Cowboys, Deion Sanders stuff. They have nothing to do with the Tennessee Titans. Can we just throw that out there? Because let me tell you something.
They have everything to do with the Titans.
As soon as that thing popped up, you got all kinds of topics. You got all kinds of tweets. You got all kinds of things talking about trades. Well, the Dallas Cowboys can trade Dak Prescott and their first-round pick and a next year's first-round pick, blah, 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 and get our first-round pick. Guys, if they trade Dak Prescott, they lose $14 million against the cap. So if you are a Tennessee Titan and you are trading for Dak Prescott, not only are you going to have to take on his $47.8 million cap hit this year.
Never going to happen.
You're going to have to pay them to take him.
And how much does that hit on their cap?
Yeah. Well, that's why you have to pay them.
Oh, no.
You have to figure out how you're going to send money and take on some of the contract that's already guaranteed. And all of his, and guess what? His next year, 2026 salary cap, $40 million, by the way, for the Tennessee Titans, if they were to trade for him, fully guarantees the 5th day of league year this year.
That sounds great for the Titans.
This sounds so great. Let's get the guy that's injured and pay him over $87 million the next 2 years. Guys, live in reality. What are we doing here?
Watch this. I'm about to say something that's going to just ignite a whole snowstorm.
Oh, God.
Here. Is Dak Prescott... Why?
Don't do it. You better not ask the question I think you're going to ask.
Hill.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say better than Will Levis. I was about to question your Sandy and say you need to go outside and start over.
We can say Tannehill, he took him to the playoffs. Dak and the Cowboys lose all the time in the playoffs. They went 12-5 multiple times and then didn't do squat in the playoffs. So I think he's an average, solid starting quarterback in the National Football League. And I know there's a lot of Cowboys fans here too. So call in because that's all I could say that he is.
Now, listen,
I can't say. He about chokes just like Tannehill does in the playoffs. Or Sam Darnold, if you want to use somebody recent.
And he had at least C.D. Lamb and a couple other good defense.
Yeah. So I just, I don't know if he's the big ticket that people, even if that could come to fruition, to the Titans and Dak Prescott. That's not going to happen, but I don't think you're getting what you think you're getting.
Well, then
it's
also,
just because they market them on ESPN every day because they're America's team and they drive ratings. The Cowboys drive ratings. We'll just be honest. That's why they talk about them all the time.
And guess what? Deion Sanders isn't coming to the Dallas Cowboys. I'll go ahead and say it right now. Because I've heard that he's got Colorado coaching negotiations already to try to get a bigger contract and get paid more.
Because he just got a bigger contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get more.
Yeah.
And he's using this to do that.
Yeah.
You guys are living in.
I completely believe that.
Yeah. Not you. When I say you, I say those that are within the sound of my voice that believe this.
But this is prime time at its best now.
Yeah.
And by the way, if it actually any point he goes anywhere, whether it's another college, another NFL team, wherever it may be, some people need to check his resume.
Right.
There ain't nothing that this guy has done that he hadn't had success. And I'm talking about from not just on the field, I'm talking about media. He was in that, and it blew up, and it was great. We can talk about college coaching, high school coaching as head coaches, and then now at Colorado to then whatever NFL, if he went that route.
Yeah.
I heard him say that he would never do NFL. And I think that's why I believe he is leveraging this to get even a bigger race.
Right.
So I don't believe he's going to NFL. Now, if there was a shot, Dallas could be on the list. Now, I think Deion is one of the guys that him and Jerry's relationship could coexist to a certain extent. And then how far will that go?
But also think about this. Jerry Jones has done everything for immediate results, right? He's looking to be in the playoffs and have immediate results. Not to say that Deion couldn't be successful, but a couple of years of taking your lumps and bruises at the NFL level really isn't on Jerry Jones's card.
No, I think he's
looking to get
now.
He's got to get a Super Bowl. Like he is itching. Yeah. He's itching to be relevant in the regular season. He's itching to stay relevant in the playoffs. Deion Sanders isn't really going to get you that relevancy for the on-field product. And if you really look at the moves that Jerry Jones has made, they've all been with the intent of winning, not the intent to have the marketing, the headlines, and that kind of stuff. Now, he is a guy that loves his headlines, but he loves it because he's the one making it.
Yeah. He loves the attention and everything else. And I could say this, Deion's somewhat the same way, but he always has intent.
Right.
So it's very strategic, where I think Jerry's a little bit different.
He's a little bit wild. He's like Yosemite Sam out there.
Yeah. So, but to say that couldn't work, I think there's a part of me believe he played there for 5 years, I think, with the Cowboys or so. They have a great relationship. So I think it could work just on that notion and the way you communicate with Jerry. And I don't think Deion would have any issues with him being the headline. And where the question will come in is, when Deion said something that was the opposite of Jerry.
There you go.
See, then who writing them checks? Prime time.
Exactly. Let's go to Corey, who wants to talk about the draft. Corey, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Hope y'all are having a good day. I got two draft questions. Just give me 1 second to get through these, and then I'll hear your response on it. The first one is I read something about the draft order. I know the Titans have the first overall draft pick, but there were 3 teams that were tied with the same record. And something was saying that in the second round, they don't have the first pick. They have the third pick. And then it rotates each round after that. So they don't have the first pick in each round.
Right.
I don't know if that's correct or not.
I never knew that until this year, by the way.
Yeah, someone else called in and mentioned that they were not the first pick in the second round.
They are 100% correct.
Yep.
And I was curious if you guys knew why that was, or like what tiebreaker, or like what it is in the NFL that causes that. And then my second question is, if we're in a situation where, say, like I know free agency comes before the draft. If we decide to target a quarterback in free agency versus going with one of these two guys, would that hurt us in terms of being able to shop that number 1 overall pick to somebody? Like, would we get less value out of it if we went ahead and secured our quarterback in free agency versus like going, through the draft or whatever, or waiting until after the draft?
No, Corey, so first off, thanks for your call. 2 great questions. Yes. So they have the third pick in the second round, first pick in the first round, third pick in the second round, first pick in the fourth, third pick in the fifth, second pick in the sixth, and top of the seventh. So it does rotate like that. Why it rotates like that?
I never knew that.
I don't know, because the tiebreaker of strength of schedule only matters in the first round. what kind of stupid rule is that?
Oh, man.
But that is insane. So I've never have noticed this or known this or anything until this offseason.
You didn't notice this? Nah, I
Yeah.
feel good. I don't feel as bad that I never
I guess
noticed
because
this over
Tennessee's never
these
been this
last,
high when I've
20 years.
Yeah. And just because I guess Tennessee's never been that high in this kind of situation where they've been tied.
Oh, gotcha.
So you gotta be tied with people too. That I've never noticed it because I guess I wasn't really paying attention. But this is supremely odd. I don't understand why they chose the NFL chose. Like I don't understand the reasoning. You get what I'm saying? I understand why because they have the same record and by that rule they rotate. I don't understand why that is.
Well,
though.
if they won the tiebreaker and they got the first round, to me, they should be first.
They should be first in every round.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, why make it more difficult than it already
I'm gonna
is?
text someone
There you go.
who his name is Troy Vincent.
The other question is, I don't think it changes the trade value at all. People are going to want the quarterbacks, or they're not going to want the quarterbacks, and whether they have unless they trade for an expensive quarterback that's not on our radar, and I'm not talking about Dak Prescott, but like some kind of crazy trade.
Yeah.
They still need a quarterback of the future, so that's always going to be an option. They're still going to go to the pro days. They're still going to have private workouts and do all this stuff. So they're still going to put on the airs that they need a quarterback, regardless of if they feel that way or not. So I don't think signing one necessarily hurts the value.
Right, no.
And it doesn't prevent you from taking one.
But what'd you think about, you made me go watch Mr. McCord there. What did you think?
I haven't gotten through a lot of Kyle McCord.
Well,
I've only saw the bowl game that they played, but I thought he looked really good in that bowl game.
Man, I was pleasantly surprised.
Compared to what we've seen at Ohio State, this is totally different.
Well, I had forgot all about the Ohio State, and then I went back, and then how he kind of grew. He kind of got... he got nuts and bolts there at Ohio State. He was going on a good little run there, and then he had like one bad game, and then they were done with him, So But one thing I can say about him though, his anticipation, his progression reads were really precise, and his decision making. Only thing I didn't really see a lot of was when the play gets off script. Now, that's not something you're looking for in your quarterback. You're looking for the things I just mentioned first. But his pocket presence was there. He's 6'3", 220. I don't know. I'm interested to see what the NFL says about him because I think he's more second, third round guy just on his talent, but his play and his mind, in my mind, based off of his reaction, what I saw from him in the games I watched there at Syracuse.
Which, by the way, think of Syracuse's surrounding talent. Okay, we got to go to break because we're having Ross Chastain, NASCAR driver, on a little bit early, so we're going to break. But let's table this because I like where your head's at, like where the momentum and the discussion's at. We'll come back to some Kyle McCord talk. We'll also get to Luke on the draft talk. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. over to with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. If you want to get on the conversation, we'll be joined by Ross Chastain shortly of NASCAR. And, of course, we were talking about Kyle McCord. Because in the draft. In the draft. Because I never would have thought that we'd be in this predicament or in this situation where we're talking about Kyle McCord. Because after watching him at Ohio State, you're like, well, this dude just he doesn't get it. And then he goes to Syracuse, and I don't know what happened. 4,779 yards, 37 touchdowns, which is an insane number when you really think about it. In 12 games, 4,779 yards. He is 6'3". He's young.
220.
He doesn't take a lot of sacks compared to his compatriots. I mean, like I said, he'll be 22 when the NFL draft comes around. You weren't really saying that he was Joe Burrow, but it kind of reminds you of certain spots of Joe Burrow. Yeah. But what also reminds me of that is that he's a quarterback that left Ohio State and found success elsewhere, much like Joe Burrow did.
Oh, that's right. I didn't forgot about that. And he has, I don't know how many starts, but he has a lot of starts. I think 36.
It's going to be a lot of starts.
But what was your number they had to reach? It was 20-something, 25, 26?
They needed to start 30 games. So he did not reach 30 games.
He did not?
No, but he didn't win 23 games. Of course, going to Syracuse is probably a little bit different.
Oh, are you just counting Syracuse? Are you counting
No, the whole thing.
I thought he had 36 starts.
You know what? He may have gotten it because of that bowl game. So let me check real quick.
And then he was 65% completion percentage. And that's what I really like because accuracy is a tough thing and it'll follow you all the way to the league.
He's played in 37 games but has 26 starts.
Oh.
So that's where so College Football Reference, for those that may not know, College Football Reference just keeps games played. They don't keep games started.
Okay.
Wikipedia actually keeps up with games started. So, and then I believe that's backed up by ESPN as well. I've seen that too. So he's 22-4 as a starter in those 26 starts. Yeah. So he's still winning record. Super high completion percentage, career completion percentage of 66.2%. Oh, yeah. He's a 2-year starter. And in those 2 years, he's pretty much gotten 7,900 yards in passing. 8.6 yards per attempt, 61 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. So that's almost, that's a 3-to-1 touchdown ratio to interception ratio. Only has really had 111 attempts rushing. So he's over his career. So he's not, high end. Here's what you should know. Mm-hmm. So not only are we, kind of liking what we're seeing from Kyle McCord right now. We haven't finished evaluation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The LA Rams Sports Illustrated fan site, or the one that's affiliated with Rams that goes under Sports Illustrated, I think the Titans have one too. Oh. They're talking about this could be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. This guy would fit perfectly into McVay's system and all this kind of stuff. So this should be something that should be on your radar as well. So we're just putting stuff on your radar just in case Tennessee Titans trade back.
Is McVay's system like Callahan's?
Similar.
Or, the other way around.
Yeah, it's similar to different branch. I guess you would say.
All of them are similar to a certain extent, but that's why I'm asking is because they're saying that radar and they think he fits that system. I would assume that if you can play in that, you can play in.
Especially because McVay's system really relies on post-snap, pre-snap reads. And if they feel, and he, like you said, he has one of the fastest time to throws out of this quarterback class, if not the fastest, now that Carson Beck's not entering. So he makes quick decisions. He's almost a half a second faster than everybody else.
Yeah. I want to keep watching him. I want to see him go through a little more progression reads because he really, his pre-snap read, you could tell was on point because as soon as he got the ball, he was letting it fly. So, you see him at times go through them, but, you're also trying to look at the competition, and it seemed as though when they played in the ACC, I saw him even against Charlotte and who else? UNLV, Georgia Tech. Yeah. At different times they were saying, wow, man, that was a heck of a throw. So I was pleasantly surprised, and, man, I wouldn't be surprised if if he started moving up the board.
There's always that one quarterback that starts moving up, and I think it's either going to be him or Will Howard right now. If I had to put money on it.
Oh, not Dart. You don't like Dart.
I don't know if Dart will really move up enough to be that to qualify as the guy that nobody was talking about. Yours needs to go the other way.
Yeah. I know what you believe in him, but there's also they're going to be people on the other side of it. That's what I love about the draft is there's going to be two different teams with two different opinions about a player, which is always fascinating to me. Having that big of a gap is really, especially when you're talking about the quarterbacks.
And we're not talking about drafting any of these guys number one overall.
No.
It's Cam Ward. The only quarterback's worth the number one overall pick, and worth maybe an opinion, not factual, but is Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward. Yeah. And even in a trade back, and you're trading back to 12, I don't know if I would draft any of these guys like at 12. There's no Bo Nix, that other first tier quarterback. You get what I'm saying? First round tier quarterback.
I would say I would agree with you, but I'm gonna put my brakes on that because
it could happen.
Of what I saw so far, and I'm like, whoa, this could be interesting. In certain systems, someone could fall in love with McCord. Yeah. I'm telling you, right, because he plays like he's already a pro.
Right.
Like his game is built
we
more
got to
for
figure
the pro.
out.
I was like, whoa.
I want to know what he did over the summer. There's got to be an article out there somewhere. I'm going to find an article.
You thought to improve?
Yeah, to improve.
No. Here's what I'm going to say off the cuff, and I could be totally wrong. Different coach, different support, didn't do nothing, said, let him play ball. You are our guy. There is no question you're our guy. Once you get that from as an athlete, especially at your quarterback, then you just let it fly. And that's how he looked out there, like there was no pressure. And then you go watch him, you start seeing signs of it a little bit at Ohio State, but it was very inconsistent.
Right.
And so I don't know if that was the level of competition. I don't know if it was where he was in his career as a college quarterback.
Okay, so here's the question. Somehow, let's say Kyle McCord, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers.
Right. That's second tier.
Will Howard.
Howard, gotcha.
Let's say all of them are available in the fourth round.
Oh.
Okay, let's say you have a crystal ball, and you know that all those guys, for whatever reason, are available in the fourth round. Are you skipping quarterback to build a better team and taking a chance on one of those guys?
Oh, in the fourth round?
Yeah.
Watch this. You're forgetting another player. I don't know if he could come out, but you keep bashing this guy every time I bring him up.
Jalen Milroe?
No, not Jalen. No, I know. Well, this guy I mentioned a long time ago, the LSU quarterback.
Well, Garrett Nussmeier's not coming out.
I know, but you never know. And I keep watching him.
Today would be the day I think the deadline's today.
So we got a chance. He may do it. So for whatever reason, I feel like he would be in that same box with those guys.
Yeah,
as a middle round
I would
guy.
agree with that.
I would say if it was me and if I already have a veteran quarterback and Levis is still on the team, not traded away, then I may move forward for one more year without bringing in another young quarterback. But I wouldn't be opposed of it if I'm a GM sitting there saying, hey, we know what we're going to do with Levis after such and such year. We need to start this, process with our quarterback and see if we can take a flyer, see if we can develop them behind the veteran quarterback. So, no, with all that being said, I would take them. I would take one of those, yes, as a flyer in the fourth round.
Let's go to Luke real quick, who's been waiting patiently, and we got Ross Chastain coming up soon here as well. Luke, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Love the content today. Some great points. I was gonna kind of ask, well, first off, can you trade back twice in the first round?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah, you can do pretty much as long as there's teams willing to do it. You sure can.
Right. Of course. I think from what I've been seeing, the Browns at number 2 may take Abdul. I mean, we would love them, but if New York wants to trade up, and then maybe the Raiders too, if Shador was still there, and I agree with what Blaine said yesterday, and y'all have talked about it the past couple months. We need to try to load up on picks. I mean, we got to have edge, right tackle, wide receiver. And, I would love like a Kyle McCord, if we could get that kind of second-tier quarterback. But, there's so many possibilities, but it's going to be interesting going forward. But I think at this point with so many needs on this team and showing this past year that they can't just use all these free agents to make up, and we still come out with 3 wins. That we just got to load up on picks and hope that they choose the right guys. Love the show. I'll hang up and listen.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
Yeah,
and we'll be talking a lot about the draft.
I want to throw out a real quick scenario. Would you do this? Would you, after looking at some of these quarterbacks that may be second tier, let's say you trade back and you're still in the top 10, picked up a first-round pick and some other picks, by the way, you were still able to get another position and a quarterback in the first round, but later, let's say top 10.
Yeah.
You would do it, right?
Yeah, I would be trading.
Now
I'm always
now
team
you would
trade
have
back.
to figure out which quarterback you can get.
That's true.
And that's why I like this group of guys, because I think they will be available.
That's true. Well, we're going to switch gears real quick to the guy that
Switching gears.
shifts his gears. Ross Chastain, professional stock car racing driver for Trackhouse Racing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so right off the top, I have to ask, do you prefer to be called Ross the Boss or the Melon Man? Because I've seen both across the internet.
The Melon Man.
Melon Man.
Where did that come
or
from?
The Melon Man. You haven't heard?
No,
Oh, man,
give me
you
the
must be
background.
living under a rock over there.
No. You been on a farm? No, Mellow Man, no.
8th generation watermelon farmer.
See, there you go. See,
From
I
South
put
Florida.
2 and 2 together.
Yes. Still grow watermelons today, and that's what I'm best known for before we started winning races.
How much did growing up on a farm, did that help you in anything in regard to racing? And I know that sounds weird from people listening, but there's a lot of things that impact, athletes doing different things. And I just wonder, did it give you a sense of, where instincts in racing in any part, or is that just, nothing to it at all?
It gave me the mindset that I didn't want to be at the farm my whole life, and I wanted to find something better.
All of that.
I mean, look, ag is in a good spot, and our families, we're very fortunate. We farmed watermelons a long time, but it hasn't always been the good old days, and we're in some of the good old days now. But yeah, I fell in love with racing at 12 years old, but we worked during the week, and my dad really used it for my brother and I, for Chad, as a reward. If we did, we got to go to the farm. It wasn't we had to. And I see a lot of farm families and families in general, they get their punishment is, you got to go work. You got to go get on a tractor. Well, it was a reward for us. I remember one time I got in trouble and he wouldn't let me go drive the tractor at the farm. And I was young and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. I was so upset. That's what I wanted to do. So yeah, a lot of values. And we still grow watermelons today, and I'll be there this weekend and Monday, Tuesday. I try to incorporate as much of my racing career into ag and pull ag along with me, shine a bright light on it. And so I'll be down there next week filming stuff. Instead of doing a production day, pictures and videos at race shop, Kubota Tractor is one of our sponsors, so they come down to the farm and film.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So that was your inspiration to get into racing, right?
My dad had done some hobby racing at our local track, and he got me into it when I was 12 years old. And a little hobby turned into a love for it, and then that fueled me to keep going. And one race in 2011 in the Truck Series is somehow we've kept it going since 2011, and we're still racing today.
There you go. So in 2023, you won the race here that was at Nashville Super Speedway. So talk about this particular track here in Nashville. I mean, obviously it's typically in the summer, right? So gets pretty hot here in Nashville. Talk about how that affects the car. Talk about the track itself, and talk about just that big win.
Yeah, that was big. So it kind of comes full circle that Nashville has been closed. Well, out in Lebanon, it's been closed for several years. So I've tested here in January when it was freezing cold, snowing, and when we got the snow got off the track, we were able to test. But whenever I signed with Trackhouse, which is my Cup Series team, Justin Marks lives outside of Nashville, and he had his dream and his goals were to move the team here. Well, we outgrew that quickly, and so with when he bought Chip Ganassi Racing, about 150 employees, including I got to be part of that. I was already driving for Chip, and then Justin hired me to drive the one car in 2022. So all that said, he lives here, and this is kind of where the soul is of the team. We don't have a shop here, but we have offices here. Justin works out of here, and we do a lot over here. We bring partners here. We take them to Broadway. I will be honest, I never did get a place to live here because I needed to get out of town whenever I'm done with Broadway. But it's the track is special because we've done so much activation here with our partners that then when we won, it was a big deal. So Tootsie's, Mr. Steve was one of our early sponsors, even before I was at the team, when it was just Daniel Suarez. You saw Tootsie's on the 99 car a lot in 2021. So when we won, we went straight to Tootsie's that night and shut it down and had a good time. My mom and dad were here, so that was really special. They've been at a few of my wins, and then with Steve, good friend, and just seeing what all he does in business is inspiring. But good old Tootsie's, it put us to bed that night.
There you go. It's put many people to bed over the years.
No doubt.
So I've been reading up and everything, and I've come across something called the Hail Melon. Okay, so this was a move where you ended up going onto the outside wall of the track in turns 3 and 4, where in Martinsville, and you're going 130 miles per hour, and it said you were inspired by NASCAR 2005 on the GameCube. Like, what are you thinking in that moment that this NASCAR 2005 video game has, popped up in your head, and you're like, well, it's been no better time than right now to try it.
That was the first time it just came to your mind. That's what it was, right? Is it really?
It was. That's what's so crazy. So what was I thinking? I kept thinking, why not? So that's kind of a little saying that some buddies and I have from back home, and they've got a lifestyle brand now all around YNOT. It's like, why not do it? And that's all I could think about was I needed to pass 2 cars, and I wasn't fast enough to catch them. I was in 10th place. So coming out of turn 4, the track's a half mile, takes about 15 seconds to go around it. So out of turn 4, I thought of it first, and I was on the last lap then, starting the last lap. And when I came off turn 2, I could see turn 3, which is straight ahead of me, going in a circle. And I just thought if I just stay against the wall, because down the straightaway, we run within a couple inches. We're going straight. It's easy to do. But in the corner, you slow down and go around the bottom, shorter distance. It's the fastest way. And I just thought, why not? And so Cody and Shane were proud that I lived by the motto. And it's something that it never should have worked.
Yeah.
I never should have thought of it. But the only time I'd ever done it was when I was a kid playing the GameCube. So I was the kid that I told my mom that PlayStation wasn't going to be very successful, that we should go with the GameCube. That was the next big thing. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yep. Chad and I would play, and I played NASCAR racing when I was a kid. I was a fan of the sport. And you just hold it wide open.
If you would have gone PlayStation, you may have gone Grand Theft Auto, and that could have been an entirely different career path for you. If you're taking inspirations from...
I never had Grand Theft Auto because I had the GameCube. So
there you go.
Yep.
I also want to get into something that Dale Earnhardt Jr. Recently talked about, and it was talking about the Ross Chastain throwback. They were talking about Pete Silva. A happy birthday to him. Good wrench was, and they showed a picture of his car, and he said he kind of threw out there that, hey, we need to do a throwback car with your car on that. How did that make you feel? Because that's like an all-time kind of praise that he's like, no, we gotta get, Ross, the boss, this kind of throwback.
Yeah, well, Dale's been great. So I've talked about it before, but I've rented a townhouse from him years ago. Mooresville, North Carolina, and the surrounding area north of Charlotte is a lot like what Nashville is for singer-songwriters, is what Mooresville is for racers and anybody in the racing community. So about 95% of your NASCAR people live within about 30 miles of each other. So he's got cheap townhouses that he rents out, and I was happy to take my rent check over there with my roommate. So I've gotten to know him over the years, and I'm going to drive his Xfinity car in 5 races this year. So one of them will be Nashville.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So I'll be in the Saturday race in the number 9 car. And yeah, it's Dale drove a lot of his career for Budweiser, was his main sponsor, and is back with the brand on the late model side, like a local racing. And through Anheuser-Busch, I drive for Busch Light, so that's what I got on my quarter zip sitting here. It's kind of hard to describe what I'm saying to all the listeners out there, I guess. But here for Samcom, and that's why we're here in Nashville today. So we've got that connection to the greater company. But yeah, he's the Busch brand, the Busch Light brand is such an iconic brand in the sport. There's a lot of throwbacks. So we did a throwback can this year. This past year was my first year with the company, with the sponsor. So we've got a long runway ahead of us and a lot of Busch Light to drink. And
so instead of champagne, do you go Stone Cold Steve Austin with the Busch cans?
I do a tall boy once I get out of the car. Tall boy in one hand and watermelon in the other.
Oh yeah,
and it has never tasted sweeter and better together. I'll probably never eat and drink that concoction except when we win races. So,
there you go.
I still smash the watermelon when I get out and eat that first. And then once I get out in Victory Lane, it's a tall boy.
Well, we're on YouTube, so we broadcast simultaneously on YouTube. So we got Dustin Gill in our YouTube chat. He says, Ross, man, my favorite driver, hell yeah, number one. Right, so there you go.
One.
Dustin's there. We're on with Ross Chastain. He's an American professional stock car racing driver with NASCAR.
Well, I'm going to ask you some fun questions. Actually, being a former NFL guy, like you have your own little routine you do before and, even after the game. What's your routine before your races? Or do you even have one?
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, the main thing for us is we're in the car. We can't go to the bathroom. So that just has to be said first. So it all revolves around, my whole life revolves around every Sunday, or maybe it's a Saturday night race, driving that car for 300, 400, 500 miles. That could be 3 to 4, upwards of 5 hours sometimes. And there's no bathroom breaks. So you can't run off to the locker room. You can't go in the tent. On the sideline. So we so it revolves around eating chicken and rice, a plain grilled chicken breast, plain white rice, and that's just keeps all the spices out, keeps all the condiments out. I don't do any sauces anymore. Just try to feel light in the car and not have to think
so
about
no fluids.
So, no, I do. No, I'm drinking.
Okay.
So they'll pass in water bottles, and I'll mix in a salt pack or something with some potassium in it. But it is so Daytona 500, our first race of the season, our first big race, points race. 4 hours before I go to the car to start getting ready for the national anthem and all that. But for 4 hours, I'll be doing meet and greets with fans, with sponsors, with all kinds of people, because that's our biggest race. That's the most extreme one. But from 10:15 in the morning to 2:15, we're doing meet and greets and trying to fit lunch in there somewhere. So we have it down to the minute. So my one of our driver coaches, Dan Jansen, former gold medalist, speed skater, he's amazed and doesn't really approve of that we do all that, because in skating, he's like, I was off by myself. Now he was getting his skates ready, he was getting his kit ready, but we've got lots of people to do all the stuff we need done to the car. I'm not turning wrenches on the car anymore. They don't need me doing that, but Dan's just like, I think you need more. And so we're trying to carve out some time, but it's just the way our sport works. It's very fan focused, and we want to be out in front of the fans, and then sponsor focused and brand focused.
Well, one more question before we let you go. What's been your most defining moment in your career thus far? And if it's a couple, just tell us real quick. Yeah.
So the Hail Melon is the most defining. It got the most views online. It transcended the sport, went out into the entire world. And people might not remember that I did it. They know who I am, but they remember that car that went around the wall, right? And then the fact that it got named the Hail Melon by the media was really cool for me in agriculture. And then winning cup races. I mean, we won our first race in 2022, and we've won the 2 years following. So we've won 3 years in a row. It's just, there's a lot of losing in NASCAR. The entire industry is on track at the same time. All 36 cars. It's like playing every NFL team every week. I mean, you're up against everybody. So you slip a little and you could be 30th place.
Oh, man, you just made me think of something, though. Is anything going to change in racing, in NASCAR? Where will this be in 10 years, let's say, in a decade? Is it going to evolve to something maybe we're not seeing today?
Oh, that question's probably not ready to be answered yet.
All right.
I don't know. I don't get in the weeds on what's next. I asked to know where we're racing, when we're racing, and let me figure out how to race it. And, if there's a gray area in the rule book, then I try to find it.
Okay.
So talk about what you're in town for Nashville for, just real quick to remind everybody, and, next race, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we'll be back racing this year, back at the big track, Super Speedway, out in Lebanon. So it's 45 minutes probably outside of Broadway.
Yeah, not too far.
And to be back there in June, kicking off June 1st for the Cup race is the Cup Series didn't race here for a long time, so being here is special. And I did hear that possibly the Fairgrounds is going to race again, so I raced out there on the Thursday night before. I'm not sure the dates yet.
Yeah,
but Fairground, the old speedway that they used to race on, the old covered grandstands, the real old school looking track. fun tracks. I run like a local race, so I could be racing against a teenager out there where you have to be 18 to drive in NASCAR. I guess that's an adult. I was an adult at 18, but so we're here to talk about the races and remind everybody and hope they come out. Maybe see another watermelon smashed and cheer on Trackhouse. So we're adding a team. So I have Daniel Suarez, my teammate in the 99, and we're adding Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, to the 88. So Dale Jr.'s old number, the 88, We're bringing it back.
Awesome.
We got Dale's blessing to do that, and SVG's from New Zealand. So he's used to like right-hand driving cars and all this stuff. And he's an awesome dude, though.
Well, we've had Ross Chastain on, American professional stock car racing driver, and competes full-time for the NASCAR Cup Series, which is coming into Nashville Superspeedway out in Lebanon. NASCAR Cup Series, Sunday, June 1st, 2025, if I'm not mistaken here. And you drive a Chevy ZL1 for Trackhouse Racing. So there we go. We really appreciate it, Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
When we come back, we'll update everybody on the Titans GM search. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here. 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Store. 615-737-1045. You want to get on the conversation? Let's get you guys updated up on the GM search. So we got Mike Bergonzi has completed his interview today. Ian Cunningham is later today. Jim Wyatt was on 3HL. He said these interviews are about 5 hours, which makes sense. That's about the time you probably need to dive deep. We know that Brian Callahan and
5 hours straight?
Yeah, I would assume so.
Oh, man. What about
you can't be GM if you can't do 5 hours straight.
What about, I'm thinking of, just like if I was racing, eating, pottying. Like, that's...
I'm sure maybe they get to pee or poop if they have to.
No, we're going to go continually talk as we eat lunch.
They're going to follow them into the stalls, stay outside, continue the conversation.
Hey, man, I need to... Like,
Deuces dropping in the water.
The GM interview to say, hey, we're at 3. I got to go get my snack.
Well, I guess
over a Zoom. I mean, come on, man. 5 hours straight just talking. If they're
in person.
Oh, this was in person.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the Zoom calls.
Totally.
Zoom calls, yeah. The 5 hours, man. You're getting distracted and everything.
I'm with you. Oh, I thought it was Zoom too. Okay.
Sorry. The in-person interviews that they are holding this week are 5 hours each.
Okay. Now we're working. What?
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine having to take your computer with you if you had to go use the restroom in Zoom. No, but like,
oh man, I didn't know they were.
But that's
in person.
All these people are getting roughly 5 hours, is what Jim White said. In-person interviews, they're doing 2 a day, splitting up the workday. So I guess 2-hour lunch break in between. 12-hour workday if you want to. And then we know that Amy Adams-Strunk is joining these. Brian Callahan is joining this round. We kind of touched on yesterday how kind of weird and kind of a bad setup it is that Brian Callahan wasn't involved in the virtual meetings, but only in the in-person meetings. And, of course, a lot of these candidates have meetings elsewhere, too. But Mike Bergonzi today, we talked about Ed Dodge yesterday. We talked about Terrence Gray, they interviewed yesterday. Ian Cunningham is likely interviewing right now, if not maybe in 10 minutes. But his 5-hour interview window is right around right now. And then tomorrow will be John Spytek, and it will be John Eric Sullivan of the Green Bay Packers. What's interesting about Mike Bergonzi is that anytime anybody mentions draft and develop in the terms of Kansas City, Mike Bergonzi's right there. He is I guess you would say, the biggest cog in the draft and develop Kansas City machine, supposedly, is what everybody says. Hot name.
But see, I don't understand what that means when we say draft, I get. He is not the coach, so how is he developing?
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing about draft and develop. I don't understand that. Is that I'm kind of with you. I guess maybe it's identifying players with high enough ceilings to develop quickly. That would be a great question for anybody that can get Chad Brinker to come out from his cave to talk to people. Would be like, what is the develop aspect at the presser when the next general manager is introduced, no matter who the general manager is? All we've heard is draft and develop. Well, what does the develop part have to do with the general manager part, the scouting part?
I'm just lost.
That's what I'm asking. I'm agree with you. Yeah. I don't have an answer for you, to be honest with you.
I don't really know.
But that's, to me, that's how I would do it. Like, I would. That's a question. I don't know if we'll, knowing them, their presser will probably be on at the time that we're on our show, so we may not even get to go.
Not. So I wonder if that means that they have upside and that the actual coaches are the ones
lean as well.
Developing them, actually.
Is that they believe that these people have high upside or high ceilings that can be developed quickly. A quick turnaround. Because, I mean, let's go to the Kansas City 2022 draft class. 8 players out of that draft class played in the Super Bowl. 4 started.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. And they won that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. That is pretty impressive, right? So to me, maybe it is this. Maybe we're on the right track. There's no definitive answer out there about this draft and develop term and why it's so tied to general managers and scouts. But I tend to think that we're on the right path.
Because they can easily. Well, I drafted them. I mean, so they did that with the Titans even during my time. So I get that. But ultimately, it's up to the actual player and the guy who's coaching them to develop them, and they
Correct.
both have to put in a lot of work. I don't know how much a scout.
It's
is
what it's
actually
like
doing
the
that.
whole Will Lev in remember in Tehran's article at ESPN where he talked about he said Brinker wants the coaching staff to allow the younger players to gain valuable experience despite the growing pains resulting from the process, but the growing pains from playing second-year quarterback Will Levis last season helped lead to Carthon losing his job. But draft and develop. I just don't get it. Some of this stuff I just don't get, and that's why we need more clarity. We'll talk more about the Tennessee Titans general manager search when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 105, The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. All ball, no snacks here on the show. No,
I can't get a
no
snack?
potty breaks.
Oh, man.
No potty breaks. All
You're
ball.
gonna mess up my stomach.
If you want to get in on the conversation, 615-737-1045.
Interview.
We have Jordan DeJaney coming up in the next segment to talk about, go around the NFL, talk about the latest general manager hirings, head coaching hirings, how much he actually believes in his Deion Sanders nonsense that you guys seem to eat up with a spoon.
You guys are killing me with this one.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so Mike Bergonzi coming in. We kind of got sidetracked a little bit talking about the draft and develop machine, which is, I agree, it's kind of a weird way to put what a scout does because, again, they don't develop them. But either way, going through, he's probably the Adam Peters of this group, right? So, like, Adam Peters, if you recall, turned down a couple of jobs last year, even turned down interviews last year. Same with Mike Bergonzi last year. In his first go-around in the cycle, he turned down a couple of interviews. And then Adam Peters then gets hired a cycle later. He is
by
now
the Commanders, right?
Yeah, by the Commanders, and you saw the success that he has helped bring with the combination of Dan Quinn hitting on a quarterback that is playing out of his mind, above his prospect profile, right?
Yeah. Well, I got a point. I want to know if you saw this. It stunned me. I know you love this guy as a head coach.
Uh-oh.
Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Remember he was supposed to do an interview with the Commanders?
And he turned him down.
No, that is not the story.
Oh, is that
on the
changed?
interview. Yes. Here's what happened. Adam Peterson, they were flying to Ben Johnson to do the interview.
Yeah.
They're talking to him on the phone. He says, Ben Johnson says, I want to keep Sam Howell as the starting quarterback. Adam Peters says,
are you sure you didn't read this on The Onion?
This is not a read. This is an interview that I saw by someone who covers the Commanders.
Okay.
This was just...
So this is a podcast or something, because we got to find this.
And I can't remember who the name was. Yes.
Ben Johnson said that?
Yes.
Does he must not want the
Here's
job.
what happened. Adam Peters says, okay, thank you. He told the guy driving the plane, turn around and we're going back.
Oh my! I have not heard that.
That's why. And this is
I know that they turned the plane around, but everybody said it's like Ben Johnson. Something happened, and everybody assumed Ben Johnson turned them down.
He said he wanted Sam Howell still to start the quarterback. Adam Peters said we're not doing that. We're taking Jaden Daniels. Thank you, but no thank you. And turned the plane around and
maybe
went
the
back.
Tennessee Titans dodged a bullet with Ben Johnson, because what a dummy!
I was like, what?
What?
Oh, I have to. I'm a fine.
That changes my whole perspective on how I view Ben Johnson.
You can get him right and wrong.
Yeah,
we all know how the draft is and how players are. And Sam Howell did play well that year.
So technically, he's viewing, based on the information that he maybe accumulated over the year, because, I mean, he probably hasn't dove deep into quarterback, stuff, that he's like, Sam Howell's better than all these quarterbacks. It's kind of like that, what that kind of leads to, right? Like,
yeah, I would think he can work with this guy. And they were saying, no, we're taking Jaden Daniels. He's like, we need to turn the play around. Wow. Because that's what we're going to do. And reason what, I wasn't even thinking about it for this. I think that's where Rand should have did things like this, especially when we were talking about the right tackle.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy. Good for Adam Peters. Yeah. Because what if he still would have went there and maybe that's how they turned out? We wouldn't even be talking about the Commanders in the playoffs. Oh, yeah. We'd be talking about Ben Johnson doesn't have his mojo. Where's Ben Johnson's mojo? Wow. That is insane. You blown my mind.
Man. Ooh, I'm going to have to Google it. I probably won't find it again, but I definitely saw the interview and I watched it. It was on X.
Yeah.
So it was trolling on there. That's how I saw it. I had no idea. I thought the same way you thought.
That's crazy. So, Mike Bergonzi is a hot name. So the thing is that everybody's like, Kansas City this, Kansas City that. We also have to understand that Kansas City, even when Mike Bergonzi joined, was still a relatively relevant, successful franchise for the most part. It wasn't just Patrick Mahomes. They've been competitive in the AFC West in their division. They've got a couple conference titles. They've been in the playoffs. So the question is, though, what about a rebuild? Because some of these people, like John Spytek, has been he's kind of done a rebuild with Tampa Bay. The Colts sort of have done like a half in, half out kind of mess, but they've been able to find young players and they've been able to build their roster of homegrown talent.
Yeah, they just get their quarterback.
So we've never really seen Bergonzi in that kind of environment. What does he do in that kind of environment? Now, that does not discount what he's done, but I kind of feel like Mike Bergonzi is the lazy person's choice. You get what I'm saying?
I have no idea.
So here's what I'm saying.
Why are you saying
Well,
that?
the reason I'm saying is because everybody's like, well, I want Mike Bergonzi. Well, that's just because he went to the Chiefs.
Right, because they were winners.
That to me just is a little lazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Mike Bergonzi isn't, a football guy or anything like that. But if you really start diving deep on the candidates, I know that everybody is a nerd like me. I'm a football nerd. Mm-hmm. I love diving deep into candidates. I love hearing them talk. I love finding podcasts, video clips, information. I try to get as much information as possible, which is what the Tennessee Titans should be doing too. I still just land John Spytek is the guy. If you want, I think he's going to be the guy for a long time for whatever franchise hires him. Maybe I could be wrong, and maybe because sometimes if you just get that one decision wrong, it derails your whole, scenario. But
well, I'm a people person. That's almost impossible for me to say that without even interviewing him,
right?
Based off of his resume and what I've seen online.
So that's why I listen to interviews and all that kind of stuff. And we don't know what goes on inside the building, right? We don't see goes on what's inside,
and if it's a good
ownership.
fit, yeah,
right. So to me, I kind of look at it from a situation of that's why I always say Mike Bergonzi's great. He could be Adam Peters, but he could also just be every other GM that kind of gets a shot and flames out too. Just because he comes from the Chiefs doesn't mean it's a lock.
And that is a trend of the NFL, by the way, go to pull people from winners.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be mad if they did that. I mean,
and because
it
really,
all the time.
If you're a betting man, John Eric Sullivan would be the favorite for the job.
Yeah.
Right?
I've said that.
And really, John Eric Sullivan's resume reads just like Mike Bergonzi's resume. The only difference is one came from the Packers and one came from a 3-time winning Super Bowl team. So we got to make sure. I will always do this. I always give information out and let the listeners decide.
Yeah.
And I just feel like everybody's just like Mike Bergonzi, Mike Bergonzi, Mike Bergonzi. All these other candidates kind of get tossed to the wayside. And they're right now, if you're judging off, which this is all we can judge off of, resumes, experience, information, interviews, all this stuff. All 6 of these guys come off very qualified for different reasons. They all have their different expertise, different backgrounds, different experiences, which also goes to show for me, from the outside looking in, this interview process has been less of a sham or less of a disaster than what I thought it was going to be. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these guys have turned down other jobs in disaster franchises because they got the vibes right away. They haven't gotten those vibes so far. And I do think that's a good sign of, at least right now, this is an appealing job in some form of fashion where it's not as a disaster as some people kind of would make it out to be. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I would have never said that because it's a 1 of 32. Yeah. And there's always going. Now, if you want to get some highly qualified people, it may have missed out on some of those people, but they actually still got highly qualified people.
Yeah.
So that's where the difference is for me. It's only 32. It's just like a head coach. If you go through 3 head coaches, the Texans they fired somebody 2 or 3 years in a row. So you just, you look at it that way, and everybody wants an opportunity to somewhat have their hands in the pot when you're in the NFL, especially when you're in the scouting side of it, to be part of decision making. If you can just even be a part of it, you'd be super excited, especially this. This kind of, just like making it to the league. It's a dream come true that you will be a part of. Even if your title says you're the GM or assistant GM to whatever it is, you'll be excited. And you want to continue to progress your career. So, I thought it was always going to be attractive. Now it's about who you're working with.
Do you think any less of the GM search or any less of the GM's power if they were to go with John Eric Sullivan, who's obviously got the strong Green Bay ties? Do you think any less of this whole process?
No, I don't. No, not at all. Even though I thought he would be the favorite.
And
which
I still
could
think
not
he
work
is.
out that way. But I'm just if I was guessing,
I know
I'm just
Reggie
guessing.
McKenzie's agent told Diana Rossini that he was the favorite, but we saw how that worked out.
So I said, people better, I don't know how much you want to look into and believe what is said on social media, but everybody's trying to get their narrative out there, and that's that's their prerogative. So
And,
I
and
get
really,
it.
it's just the Raiders, the Jets, and the Titans. And,
Look,
the
competition
Raiders, you
stuff.
work with Tom Brady, but all three owners are erratic.
Yeah.
All
But I would
three
say the Titans are ahead of all those
Because of the
those
number
two
one
other
pick.
teams because they actually got ahead of the curve and actually have sat down with these guys and ladies sooner than later. So I think they're ahead of the other two teams.
It will be interesting to see what the other teams do in moves. Because remember, last year they fell in love with Brian Callahan fairly early in the process, and then they heard that Brian Callahan's got job interviews elsewhere, and they didn't let him out the building. Well, John Eric Sullivan and John Spytek are both the last guys to interview. So which I would say probability says that one of those guys is not going to get out of the building without a job offer. So it'll be interesting to see.
You may be onto something on that one.
So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Jordan DeJaney. We're going to go around the NFL with him. We'll also get to your phone call, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone.
Hey, it's a new year and time to start on your wellness goals. So if you have a nagging pain or injury that's been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities like golf, tennis, whatever it is, now is the time to finally take care of it. Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating, healing, and recovering for all your injuries or pain. So Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. And Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal, and the ultimate goal is to always avoid surgery if possible. So reduce joint pain and inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function. The new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make that happen. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some point in time for most aggressive pricing you will find in the area. So spend this month restoring so you can thrive the rest of the year and the rest of your life. All you have to do is just give them a call. 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Store, 615-737-1045 if you want to get on the conversation. Of course, the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And we got a loaded show. We're just going to keep on rolling. And we're going to go to Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports to go around the NFL with him. Jordan, what's the latest you're hearing on the GM search for the Tennessee Titans?
My friends, what's going on? Thanks for having me on the show once again. Yeah, so the Titans are going through what they hope will be final interviews, second-round interviews, and according to reports, we might see an offer at least extended to one or two of these candidates in the next week or so. It'd be great to get that guy in the building and keep him there sooner rather than later. But I do wonder, who would be the best fit for these jobs, and also what other candidates are the Titans interviewing that may have eyes towards another job, right? With Spytek with the Las Vegas Raiders, or Mike Borgonzi with the New York Jets. Who exactly do the Tennessee Titans want to land on? And does that candidate prefer one job compared to the other? So all these questions hopefully will be answered in the coming weeks.
Well, a job that opened up is Dallas Cowboys job. And of course, immediately the Deion Sanders Jerry Jones connection was made, and Tennessee Titans fans and media just went crazy over the possibilities of Deion Sanders being head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott trades, Shedeur Sanders being traded up for, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, are you getting the sense that this is just a kind of a contract move to get more money out of Colorado from Deion Sanders?
This has the potential to be the most intriguing soap opera of any NFL offseason ever. I mean, we have the Cowboys undergoing a coaching search, which was dramatic right off the bat, by the way. Remember, the Cowboys just, last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, they declined the Chicago Bears interview request to talk to Mike McCarthy. And then less than a week later, they move on from him, and Mike McCarthy is free to speak elsewhere. So that was dramatic in itself. And then, of course, we wrap Deion Sanders' name into this potential coaching search. And Deion Sanders is going to do what Deion Sanders does best, and that's remain in the headlines and talk about, coaching the Cowboys would absolutely be a great job, and it's very intriguing. But at the same time, I love Colorado, and I love what we're trying to build here as a looming powerhouse in Boulder, Colorado. So I think you hit the nail on the head. If I had to make an official prediction, I think that we're going to see a few really exciting headlines over the next coming weeks, maybe month, if you will. And Deion Sanders is going to sign an extension to remain with Colorado. But then it opens the door for where the Cowboys, where do they go? I mean, are they going to interview some of the candidates that have been talking to different teams throughout the past couple of weeks? Or are they just going to go out of left field and hire Jason Witten to be their next head coach? So
that can't be right? I've heard a couple people say this. Are you and Jason Witten?
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing with Jason Witten is that I think that Jerry Jones definitely holds him in high regard as someone who could potentially be a head coach one day, but that doesn't mean that he's going to make Jason Witten the head coach entering the 2025 season.
It'd be like Jeff Saturday.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, Kellen Moore, Jeff Saturday, that kind of situation.
Exactly.
We're on with Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports, going around the NFL with him.
Well, Jordan, I guess I want you to kind of, get it correct on your team. You're one of your teams that you love, and that's the Steelers here with the relationship with Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson. I thought they had a good relationship, but, man, this stuff coming out, I don't know what's true and what's not. And then they're talking about they want to trade Tomlin, and he's not meeting expectations. How about them get a better roster? Let's start there.
Yeah. I think the NFL world, from like a national perspective, got more of a taste of what the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base has thought about Mike Tomlin for the past couple of years. Mike Tomlin is someone who is celebrated by the national media, but those in Pittsburgh have higher expectations than just going 500 or having a winning record and entering the playoffs. I think the Steelers have now lost 6 straight playoff games. So what's the point of getting to the postseason if you have no chance of making any kind of run? And with the quarterback situation specifically, I mean, Mike Tomlin was celebrated for benching Justin Fields for Russell Wilson because that decision paid immediate dividends. But eventually, I don't know if it was the film caught up to Russell Wilson because he clearly hit a slide with his play, and the Steelers as a team, the defense couldn't support them for where they wanted to go. Then they get to the playoffs, and the Baltimore Ravens have no problem rushing past Pittsburgh. So there are a ton of questions with what the Steelers are going to do moving forward. Now, in regards to Mike Tomlin, I don't think he's being traded. I think he's going to remain the head coach. I think he just signed an extension last year with Pittsburgh. But the quarterback situation is way more interesting because I don't think think there are many people out there that want to run it back with Russell Wilson. So where are they going to go? Are they going to try to trade up in the draft? Are they going to try to look at one of these free agents? Do they want to go with a younger guy, an older guy? A lot of questions with the Steelers. But, yeah, according to reports that came out today, Arthur Smith wasn't exactly in favor of the quarterback switch. He didn't get along with Russell Wilson as much as the more versatile, athletic Justin Fields. And now Arthur Smith is out here interviewing for head coaching vacancies. So maybe he's a sleeper to keep an eye on.
Well, I want to have some fun with you a little bit on this question, and because I got some guys I have in mind, but I don't know. What NFL star player do you think possibly could get traded?
Ooh, well, the Raiders, for example, are a team that are in flux right now. We're talking about hiring a new general manager. We're talking about a new head coach. And there's one star who is probably one of my favorite players in the NFL, and he threatened to request a trade if the Raiders did not keep Antonio Pierce entering the 2024 season. So is he someone who could be traded? And, of course, I'm talking about Max Crosby, the star pass rusher for the Raiders. I've seen a couple hypotheticals thrown out there. If Dion goes to the Raiders and the Raiders want to trade up to number 1 overall, could Max Crosby potentially be part of a trade package going Nashville's way, which I would absolutely love. So Max Crosby's actually already put it out there during the course of the regular season, saying that he doesn't want to rebuild. He wants to compete. He wants to win games. He's truly a competitor at heart. So Max Crosby is definitely someone I'm keeping an eye on throughout this offseason.
I guess one more for me, and that was I was really surprised how much the Rams got after the Vikings. But not only that, Sam Darnold's last 2 starts, one playoff game, one at the end of the season for the seeding. Do you think this hurts Sam Darnold's market, or just maybe hurts him a little bit as far as how much money he gets, but he still will be one of the prized possessions to get in the free agency if he becomes free agent?
So it doesn't. I don't think it hurts his market from a financial standpoint. Sure, he lost money over the past couple of weeks. Investing in crypto has been more lucrative than investing in Sam Darnold at this point. But I really do think, and I think we talked about it last week with you guys, is that maybe the Vikings' plans could have changed with what Sam Darnold has shown over the past couple of weeks. And what I was thinking watching that game against the Rams was, it's now more likely that Sam Darnold could be on the Tennessee Titans next year or the Las Vegas Raiders or whoever it may be, because Sam Darnold's thoughts may have changed in terms of he might want to go out there and chase the bag because Minnesota isn't offering the kind of money and long-term security that another franchise could offer him. But, there's no doubt about it. Looking at SpotTrack and their market value tool, I think Sam Darnold's projected market value went from like 50-something million to 40.1 million just over the past couple weeks. That's a drop from the projected number 4 highest paid quarterback to number 14. So yes, it hurt his market from a contract standpoint, but there is still going to be interest around the league in him as a bridge quarterback, a short-term starter, whatever it may be.
NFL writer for CBS Sports, Jordan DeJani.
Jordan, I don't know if you know this or not, but Blaine was telling me something a few minutes ago. Adam Peters turned the plane around because Ben Johnson said that he wanted to work with Sam Howell. Have you heard that as well? This came from Commander's podcast, official podcast. But I knew that they turned the plane around, but we never really got clarity on why. Have you heard that as well?
Well, I guess Ben Johnson is just really biased towards North Carolina players. Both these guys went to UNC, so he was sticking by his fellow Tar Heel.
That's the connect. That's what it was. So now you believe it.
There it is.
No, but here's the thing. I'm kind of glad you brought this up. First of all, I've not heard that rumor about Sam Howell, but you do bring up a really interesting storyline that was underreported on last year, and that's why did that plane turn around?
Right.
There was a really wild pivot with Ben Johnson. Here is what I thought it was, and it's actually a reason why I'm keeping a close eye on what Ben Johnson is going to do this year. According to multiple reports from multiple outlets, Ben Johnson was asking to immediately be one of the highest paid head coaches in the NFL, despite never being a head coach before. And there has been reports that some teams actually balked at that asking price as well. So when that plane made that quick turnaround going back out west, I was wondering if the asking price with Washington was something that played a role in ultimately him not having that final interview and not taking the job.
What do you think about the wild card round of NFL games? Because the reason I'm asking is I know that they're talking about redoing the NFL playoff system in terms of seeding. But really, this extra game, other than putting money in the NFL's pocket, and maybe that's all that matters, but from a football standpoint, these have been some terrible games in the opening wild card rounds over the years. And I'm just kind of wondering, what's the play here? Is it just, it's all money driven, right?
Yes. Listen, I love the NFL. It's my favorite thing in the world, but I absolutely hate the expanded playoffs. I could have gone without seeing the Denver Broncos take on the Buffalo Bills this weekend. Same with the Green Bay Packers, who absolutely limped into the postseason. No surprise they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. All these games have been blowouts with these 7 seeds, so I really do hate the current structure. But as you mentioned, it is about money. People are still going to watch the games. I'm still going to have to work, and, of course, I'm going to watch as a fan. There's been rumors about the NFL also adjusting its playoff structure when it comes to home field advantage. Not every division champion gets a home field advantage. Maybe instead of the Vikings having to play on the road, they went 14-3 in the regular season, so they should get home field advantage. Right. For the record, I am totally against that. And listen, we've seen some really bad division champions before, whether it was TJ Yates playing for the Texans at quarterback a few years ago or whatever it was. But hey, these division champions, whether it's the Texans or the Rams this year, they needed that home field advantage. Not the Rams because the game got moved, but hypothetically with bad division champion teams, they need all the help they can get against some of these better wild card teams, in my opinion. So I'm against that potential change, but who knows if it eventually is negotiated or not.
All right. So the Eagles, won 22-10 against the Packers. The Packers defense was flying around everywhere in that game, but the Eagles just kind of look broken right now. They don't look as dominant as they should be. When you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and that offensive line, 22 points seems pretty low, and they have not been that spectacular or impressive down the stretch other than Saquon Barkley reaching 2,000 yards. Is this an underrated storyline right now that, man, the Eagles just don't look right?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a storyline, but here's my thought process on it. I thought that Jalen Hurts just looked really rusty. Mm-hmm. He, of course, suffered that concussion against Washington, missed a few starts, sat out in Week 18, of course, as well. So I thought that Jalen Hurts looked very, very rusty. The passing game looked rusty, in my opinion. So I think that we'll keep a close eye on that this weekend, because if he returns to form against the Los Angeles Rams, we can put that narrative behind us. But, of course, the offense has to be operating at all cylinders at this point in the season. And the Eagles definitely have one of the best defenses in the NFL, which has kind of carried them over the past few weeks. But this Los Angeles Rams team, they might be red hot, right? They've won 5 consecutive road games. And this defense, we talked a little bit about it. They had 9 sacks in that win over the Vikings, which, of course, tied the Titans for the most by any team in a playoff game ever. They didn't have Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. They had him straight up trapped in the haunted mansion. That young defense played incredibly well. So maybe this is one of the more underrated games for the divisional round. But, yeah, I kind of like the Los Angeles Rams as a sleeper.
Well, you've been a big proponent all season on our show talking about the Rams. We brought up the Rams numerous times. So I'm not surprised that you're still riding with it, because right now you look like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving me my flowers. I think it was probably the first time I ever talked to you on the radio was leaving week 3, I think. And I said the 1-2 team to keep an eye on is the Los Angeles Rams. Yep. So I'm glad I got one thing right at least.
That's true. So speaking of Russ, because you were talking about Jalen Hurts earlier, Patrick Mahomes has not played a game since Christmas Day. And he is going to come back in this playoff game. What do you expect? Because this is Patrick Mahomes. He's elite. This is Andy Reid. He's always going to have his team prepared. But, man, that is a long time to go without playing football. What do you expect from Kansas City in the playoffs going forward?
Isn't that insane? He hasn't played football in almost a month. That's absolutely crazy to me. But listen, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes, he's 14-0 versus quarterbacks that are not named Tom Brady or Joe Burrow. So I think many people are imagining that, of course, the Chiefs are going to win this game. But if you're a betting man, that's where things get really interesting, because the Chiefs, they tied a record for the most one-score wins in a single season in NFL history. 11 of their wins came in one-score games. And by the way, they're 0-6-1 against the spread as a 6-point favorite this season. They're 8-point favorites right now against the Houston Texans. So I think I'm actually going to take the points with the Texans and hope for a close game. But man, this Texans defense, real quick, I'm really excited to see how they perform against Patrick Mahomes in this offense, because the Texans just became the first defense since the Ravens back in Super Bowl 35 to allow a sub 45% completion percentage from a quarterback while recording 4 interceptions and 4 sacks in a playoff game. So Houston is headlined by C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, but this defense is playing out of their absolute minds right now. Now, can they pull off an upset? Probably not, because you look at the historical numbers. Houston is 0-5 all-time in the divisional round. They're the one franchise in NFL history that has never reached a conference championship game. And by the way, they're also 0-5 all-time on the road in the playoffs.
All eyes will be on Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Ravens at Bills, 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday. Both of these teams have had bugaboos with the Chiefs, right? They have these playoff narratives. They can't close the deal. They can't seal it away. They can't put these teams away. Now they're playing each other. What do you expect to see out of this game? And if you were a betting man, what's the bet to make?
This is the game of the playoffs. I mean, this is the first ever playoff matchup between quarterbacks with 40 total touchdowns, fewer than 10 turnovers in the regular season. The MVP favorite versus the second MVP favorite, if you will, at quarterback. I expect Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen both to have magnificent games, especially considering the stage. Derrick Henry is going to have a chance to really run wild against this Bills defense as well, even though the Bills defense has certainly been performing well. But I think that really is really what the game comes down to. Which defense is going to outperform the other? And I think one of the more underrated storylines around the entire football world right now is the Ravens' play on defense as of late. And I think that's going to end up ruling the day this weekend in Buffalo. This Ravens defense ranks number 1 in scoring, total defense, and third down since Week 11. Week 11 was that turning point because previously the Ravens defense ranked 25th or worse in each category that I mentioned. They've allowed the fewest 20-yard plays since Week 11 after allowing the most prior. It's been well documented that keeping Kyle Hamilton at safety at that third level has been incredibly important to this turnaround as well. Now, Zay Flowers' status does give me a little bit of pause. I feel like Baltimore is really going to need him against this Bills team. But I'm leaning towards the Ravens, who actually have had a lot of money pour on them. They are favorites in this matchup despite being on the road. And you might have to double check me, but I think this is the first time the Bills have ever been underdogs on their home field in the postseason.
Well, home dogs do bark louder, Jordan, so you got to keep that in mind. We're on with Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports.
Bills Mafia. Before we let you go, I guess give us an update, always in the division, on where the Jaguars are with their head coach.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars have been a really interesting storyline because they kept Trent Baalke, which I think makes the job less attractive, in my opinion. But Shad Khan has also kind of said, hey, if we make a GM decision, maybe we go back on it depending on who the head coach is. Who knows? But I will say that I think that they are going to consider an offensive mind. So if Ben Johnson is not going to the Raiders, I think somebody like Joe Brady of the Buffalo Bills, the offensive coordinator who's done a tremendous job, could be in the mix for that job as well. So I think that for the Jaguars specifically, you have to keep in mind that they want to go with an offensive mind. At least that's the way I see it.
There we go. Well, Jordan, we always appreciate it, taking us around the NFL, giving us a little bit of betting advice, possibly. And then... And, going through and talking about the divisional rounds, playoffs, and everything like that. So we appreciate it. Jordan DeJaney, CBS Sports. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Titans GM search and why we should probably give Ian Cunningham more of a shot. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 105 The Zone.
There are a lot of diagnoses out there, and there's a pill for everything. But not all diagnoses are accurate, and not all pills are good for you. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop. And when you get a diagnosis for a European auto repair, get a second opinion before you make a major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. So before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, go to Eurofix. It could not only save your vehicle's life, but could actually save you from a lot of stress that can ruin your freaking weekend. And life's too short to get stressed out and upset. So be happy and go to Eurofix. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-rent inspection with an estimate at every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. Also, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer pricing. That's because they're family-owned for 26 years, located all over the state of Tennessee in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine says,
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. Last chance for phone calls if you want to get in. I know Emery had called in. Right, because a couple of you guys had some bad timing today. So if you're out there, feel free to call back in. We'll get to you. And there was someone else.
I was going to pull him up with Jordan DeGene. I was going to have
him ask the questions.
Yeah, because
it
was about the Titans.
What would they do? Do you think we can trust our audience to be an interviewer of someone?
Absolutely.
Oof.
Oh, you're not so sure.
Let me say that we could not trust them. At least the football and other F words audience could not be trusted. Maybe our audience here on Cover 2.
Well, the name speaks for itself.
Yeah, that is true. Football and other F words, wherever you get your podcast, 6 p.m. live every Thursday.
Check it out.
There you go. Okay, so Ian Cunningham is a guy that was a finalist for the general manager job when Rand Carthon got it, that 2023 offseason. He's back again. He's going through his 5-hour plus interview right now in person at the facility with Tennessee Titans. So they obviously know him and everything. They've liked him enough to not only to invite him back for virtual, but go from virtual to in-person interviews again. So that's a good sign. But a lot of people, and here's again my issue with, I guess, the GM discussion, and this is really more fan-driven, is that, he came from the Bears, so he must stink.
Right, yeah, that I mean.
And that's ignoring.
I get why people say that.
Yeah, I get why people say
if you've been in the industry of hiring people, that doesn't dictate anything. Or on the other side of, as we were talking about, winning, like you were with the Chiefs. So,
Right. But I do look at the pedigree, right? His mentors, Ozzie Newsome, Howie Roseman.
Some of the best in the business.
The best in the business, right? And to be honest, that means something, right? That those two guys recognized you. Yeah. They plucked you out of obscurity because those two guys are high-end talent evaluators, not just for players, but also for the staff that they put together.
See, I'm the type I would call both of those guys.
Yeah.
I would call them and ask them, hey, man, what were your thoughts when he worked with you? Just kind of give me an overview of what he was about. I would really want to do that.
And I'm sure maybe they probably have and everything. But see, to me, that's where you got to go deeper, right? When you start looking at the resumes, it's not just about where you're coming from, it's where you've been. Because the reason being is because that's where you learned everything, right? Mm-hmm. He learned everything growing up in the Ravens system from 2008 to 2016, where he was a personnel assistant and then an area scout. He learned a lot of his, again, that's where he learned how to scout. Mm-hmm. Now you get to where he learned how to direct and manage, and he was hired by Howie Roseman in 2017 as director of college scouting, then became assistant director of player personnel, then became director of player personnel, all with the Philadelphia Eagles, all in prime successful years. And then he went to the Chicago Bears and has been there since 2022 as assistant general manager. And to be honest, if you want to knock him from coming from the Bears, all anybody really talked about all offseason was how Caleb Williams is walking into the best situation a rookie quarterback could ask for. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen.
They got the offensive line
Rome
together.
Odunze. They put together a pretty good offensive line that fell off down the stretch, but at the beginning it was pretty good. They had a good defense. I'm just saying there were worse things that could have happened for a rookie quarterback to walk into, and he's still part of that, right? He's still involved. It didn't end up how they wanted it, and sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, they made moves that were smart. It just sometimes smart moves don't work out. But then I go back to the videos of him telling Ryan Proles, hey, just chill out. Rome Odunze will fall to us. Our guy will come to us. We don't need to trade up. Be patient. Stuff like that matters. Remember, you're being patient. Because listen, even GMs can make mistakes. I mean, all the time.
Absolutely.
So it's nice to have that other voice in the room that says, hey, calm down. We got this. Because sometimes you get a little bit antsy. So I just want to throw out there that I really have always liked Ian Cunningham's background. And if I am a guy that is looking for a scouts, I typically lean to the Birds, to the Baltimore Ravens, to the Philadelphia Eagles, and to the Seattle Seahawks. I typically lean in that direction because
history.
of the success that these teams have had in the draft. Because to me, free agent busts and stuff like that, that doesn't mean as much to me as your success rate as a scout. Because the lifeblood of a team is through the draft. So that's just kind of where I look at it when it comes to Ian Cunningham. I don't want the Bears stank to fill up the room.
Hey, they're still employed.
That's true.
Or at least the people upstairs.
Yeah. So far.
Well, time's a ticket there. So, I like how you're thinking, but I would really rely on, I don't know how much Brinker and whoever else is involved with Amy would go call, some of these guys if they have a relationship with them and feel comfortable enough to, take them at their word, who, have a lot of success in this league. And I'm sure they would give them the true identity of who these people are and what they represent. So I would lean into that a lot more. After looking at their resumes, after sitting down with the interview, you want to be sure as best you can and say you dotted all your, I's and crossed your T's to make sure you did your best to identify. And that doesn't even mean it'll go right, but you knew everything you could about this guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's all about how, I guess, also maybe your draft philosophy, your team building philosophy obviously aligns with Chad Brinker's philosophy. Because there isn't a team philosophy you're having to conform to. It isn't the head coaching's philosophy you're having to conform to. You're having to conform or work within whatever Chad Brinker says right now. So I kind of look at it as, what is your process when you scout? What are your non-negotiables? How many prospects are you on right now? How do you divvy out the scouting responsibilities? When do you bring the scouts in from the cold? What does that process look like? Once they're here, what is your schedule set?
I want to know what you think about 5 quarterbacks.
5 quarterbacks. Hey, listen, I bet they're asking, tell us what you think about Will Levis. Tell us what you think about Cam Ward and all these quarterbacks and all these situations. Because they should. I mean, well, heck, they're in there for 5 hours. What all could you be talking about? I mean, that's got to be on the list. 615-737-1045 if you want to get on the conversation. But, and of course it is last minute to try to get in on the conversation. But at the end of the day, again, we'll talk about John Spytek and John Eric Sullivan tomorrow because they are the last 2 to go. But Ian Cunningham, don't put that much emphasis on his time with the Chicago Bears because we don't really know what he did there. Look at who trained him, plucked him out of obscurity, and promoted him. That, to me, tells a lot more, especially when it comes from those 2 respected franchises, about a person.
Concur.
There you go. That will do it for us. 3HL's up next. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.